Hello, good day. Today we're going to be looking at past questions that should be 2023 Waec past question. I would like us to do justice to this. Let's see these questions and how they can be answered and see how the answers are given. Now, this is paper 2 of biology. This is theory questions, biology theory. Okay, and in biology theory, you are usually in part 1, you are given 4 questions to answer to, and also in part 2, you are given either 1 question to answer just that 1 question, or you might be given 2 questions to answer 1. Now, that simply means in biology, you are to answer, in biology paper 2, you are to answer a maximum of 3 questions out of probably 6 questions or 5 questions that will be given. So it is actually, for me, it's a win-win, it's a good one. And if you follow this, I think you're going to do very well. And like I said before, please try as much as possible to form the habit or develop the habit of going through past questions over and over again. It is actually going to help you in preparing for upcoming exams, okay? Prepare you for upcoming exams. You're going to see repeated questions and so on. And I think you're going to do well. Now, quickly, without wasting much of your time, let's go into the business of today. So we're looking at 2023 past questions. Look at the question 1, or let's look at the first question. I'm going to answer, I'm not answering 3 questions. I'm going to answer the whole 5 questions, okay? We're going to look at the whole 5 questions together. Now, let's start with question 1. What is classifications of living things? What is classification of living things? Now, classification of living things is simply the placement of living things into groups of certain common features. Of course, you know that living things, there are so many living things, so many, both plants, animals, unicellular, multicellular, organisms that are found in waters, organisms that are found on land or terrestrial. There are so many organisms. Now, one of the importance of classifications of living things is to help us to easily identify these living organisms. So what is classification? One more time, I said it is the placement, or you can say it is the arrangement of living organisms into groups of certain common features. I can also add and say for easy identification. So placing them in groups of certain common features, their features must be common. So you can put them in a group, okay? And I said before, it is for easy identification. Easy identification. Now, the man that actually came up with a system of classifying living things, which is still studied till today in biology, his name is Carolus Linus. And after he came up with several systems, in fact 3 important systems. Let me just briefly enlighten you of those 3 important systems. First of all, he developed or came up with a system of placing living things into a group, into 7 major groups, which we can call KPCOF-GS, an acronym. K stands for kingdom, and then P stands for phylum, C stands for class, O stands for order, F stands for family, G stands for genus, and then S stands for species. So he grouped living organisms into 7 major groups. That was the first thing he did. And then the second way he classified living things is that he gave them names. He gave them names for easy identification. And this system of actually naming living organisms, he called it binomial system of nomenclature. nomenclature. So he gave names to these organisms, and the last thing he did is that he placed these living organisms, or he classified living organisms into two major kingdoms. It was later discovered that some scientists came up together and decided to expand it to 5 major kingdoms. Actually, the kingdom he came up with was plant kingdom and animal kingdom. But later on, scientists, when they came together, they discovered that there are some organisms that can't actually fit in to the plant and animal kingdom. So they had to actually separate them and have more classifications, which included kingdom Monera, we have kingdom Protista, we have kingdom Fungi, and then we have the kingdom Animalia and kingdom Plantae added to it. So we have 5 kingdoms. So these are the 3 systems with which Carolus Linnaeus actually classified living organisms or living things. Now let's move to question 2, or the second question, that is 1bi. It said, state 4 ways by which the following groups of organisms are of economic importance in their habitat. Now please take note, whenever you hear the word economic importance as it relates to biology, it implies both the good and the bad, or let me put it this way, it implies both the positive and actually the negative. So if you hear me mentioning something that is actually negative as it relates to this living organism, it is still in place, okay? It's still talking about economic importance. That is what we're actually looking at, is how these living organisms impact in their ecosystem or in the habitat they find themselves. Now, the first one we have here is fungi. Now, please take note, fungi is a non-green plant. Now, we have different examples of fungi. We have rhizopus, we have mucor, we have mushrooms, we have mold. We also have yeast. We have several examples. We have the toadstool. All these are examples of fungi. Now, what are their economic importance? Number 1, fungi, they can cause diseases. Remember, I told you economic importance includes the negative and the positive. So this is a negative effect. So they can cause diseases. We have diseases caused by fungi. An example is ringworm. Okay, ringworm affects affects animals. Okay, both humans and lower animals. So ringworm is an example of a disease that is caused by fungi. So number 1 is that they cause diseases. Number 2, they can serve as a source of food. An example is mushroom. Okay, I believe some of you have had mushrooms or eaten mushrooms before. Also, number 3, they can be used in fermentation. Okay, in the production of bread. You can use them in bakeries. You can also use them in producing in the brewery industries, where they prepare beer or alcoholic drinks, let me say so. These are, an example is yeast. Yeast plays a major role in this aspect. So I repeat, number 1, we said that they can be used, they can cause disease. Number 2, they serve as a source of food. And then number 3, they can be used for fermentation, or they can be used in the process of fermentation. And then number 4 is that they can be used to produce drugs, mostly antibiotics. We have the penicillin. Penicillin is an antibiotic, actually comes from fungi. Okay, so they can be used as that. And let me even add number 5, fungi, they are decomposers. Okay, so they bring about decomposition, and decomposition, of course, improves soil fertility. It adds nutrients to the soil. So I've given you 5 economic importance of fungi. 5 economic importance of fungi. Now we also have next one, BII, says state 4 ways by which the following groups of organisms are of economic importance in their habitat. They are of economic importance in their habitat. An example, the one they gave there is plants. We've finished talking about fungi. This one is plants. Now, what are some of the economic importance of plants? Number one, plants can also serve as food. Okay, they can serve as food not just to humans but also to animals like herbivores. So they can serve as food. Number two, they can serve as shelter. They can serve as shelter for most organisms like the birds. They take shelter, that is their habitat. We call that a boreal habitat. So they can serve as a source, they can serve as shelter for some organisms. Also, they can serve as windbreakers. They help to prevent erosion. Trees are called windbreakers. They help prevent wind erosion. So they can serve as a factor to prevent erosion. Number four, they can also serve as they can also help to purify the air or the atmosphere. They help purify the atmosphere. Now, when they undergo photosynthesis, one of the byproducts of photosynthesis is oxygen. So during photosynthesis, plants make use of carbon dioxide and then release oxygen into the environment or into the atmosphere. Now, please take note, when a particular air is said to be pure when there is an increase in the amount, or yes, when there is an increase in the level of oxygen in that particular environment, increase in the level of oxygen in the atmosphere. However, if there is an increase in carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, it brings about what we call a greenhouse effect. And greenhouse effect brings about global warming. And of course, there are several negative effects of global warming. So we've mentioned 4 important economic importance of plants. Number one, we said they are used for shelter. Number two, they can serve as food for living organisms, other living organisms. Number three, we said that they can also be used to prevent erosion. And then number four, we said that they can help to purify the atmosphere. So these are 4 economic importance of plants. Now let's move ahead. Next question. That is 1C. And 1C says, complete the table by stating 5 major phyla of kingdom Animalia and give one example of each. Give one example of each. Now remember, we talked about classifications of living things, and I told you that Carolus Linnaeus actually classified living things. He came up with a system for classifying living things. And we also mentioned something very, very important, and I said that in terms of classifications of living things, one of the systems of classifying living things that he introduced was to classify living things into kingdoms. And later it was expounded up to 5 kingdoms. Now, which are, we have kingdom Monera, kingdom Protista, kingdom Fungi, kingdom Plantae, and kingdom Animalia. Now, we're going to be talking about kingdom Animalia, all right? If you also, after the kingdom, we have phyla or phylum. After phylum, we have class, order, after order, family, genus, and then species. So we want to look at phyla under kingdom Animalia. Phyla under kingdom Animalia, and we're asked to measure 5. But please take note, we have about 9 kingdom phyla under kingdom Animalia, and I'm going to mention the 9, and I'm also going to give you examples in each of these 9, though what was required here is 5. Now let's take a look at the first one. The first one is called Phyla porifera. Phyla porifera, P-O-R-I-F-E-R-A, porifera. Now, porifera, an example of a porifera is the sponge. Okay, sponge. Number 2 phyla under kingdom Animalia is Phyla colentrata. Phyla colentrata. Now, examples of colentrata, we have the jellyfish, we have the hydra, we have sea anemone. They all fall under this category of colentrata. Now, after the colentrata, number 3, we have phyla platyhelminths. Another name for platyhelminths, you can call them flatworms. Platyhelminths or flatworms. An example of a platyhelminth is tapeworm. Another example is planaria. Also, number 4, we have phyla nematoda. Phyla nematoda. An example of a phyla nematoda is Ascaris lumbricoid. We also have the guinea worm. We have the hookworm. We also have the Wuchereria bancrofti. All these are examples of worms that are found under phylum nematoda. We also have number 5, which is phylum Annelida. Phylum Annelida. An example here is the leech. We also have earthworm. Earthworm falls under phylum Annelida. Number 6, we have phylum Mollusca. Phylum Mollusca. Now, examples of phylum Mollusca, we have the snail, we have the octopus, we have the squid. All these are examples under phylum Mollusca. We have the, I think that should be number 7, yes. Number 7 is phylum Arthropoda. Now, phylum Arthropoda is divided into about 4 different classes. We have the crustaceans. An example of a crustaceans is the prawn or the crab. We also have phylum, we have the class Insecta. Class Insecta includes cockroach, housefly, grasshoppers, praying mantis, and so on. They fall under class Insecta. We also have the class Arachnida. Now, class Arachnida talks about the spiders. We have the scorpions. They fall under this category. And then also we have the class Myriapoda. Class Myriapoda, example is the centipede and the millipede. Okay, so these are all under phylum Arthropoda. And then we also have number 8, which is phylum Echinodermata. Phylum Echinodermata. Now, under phylum Echinodermata, we have the dogfish. Okay, we have we have the dogfish. We have the ray fish. All these, they fall under phylum Echinodermata. We have the jellyfish, I think so, it falls under that category. And then lastly, we have the chordata, phylum Chordata. And phylum Chordata is also divided into 4 or 5 different classes. We have the Pisces, which includes all fishes. We have the amphibians, which includes the frogs and the toads. We have the reptiles, which includes the lizard, the snake, the crocodiles. We have the aves, which includes all birds. And then we have the mammals, which includes you and goats, cows, sheep, lions, and all the others. All these are examples of chordata. So we have exhausted that particular question 1C. Now let's move to the next question, which is question 2. Now, question 2, there is a table that was given there, and I think that we're to fill in or complete the table below. Now, if you look at those elements, these are mineral elements that are required by plants for healthy growth and development. Now, some of them are called, actually these minerals are divided into 2. We have the major nutrients, and then we have with the minor nutrients, or you can call them macro and micro. But let's go with major and minor. Now, the major nutrients can also be called essential nutrients, while the minor nutrients can also be called non-essential. Now, the reason why it is non-essential, or the reason why it is called micro or minor, is not because it is not required. It's just that it is required by plants in small quantities, while the ones that are called the major or the macro or essential nutrients, they are required by plants plants in large quantities. Okay, now let me mention some of them that are required by plants, as we have on the table, that are required by plants in large quantities. Iron there is required by plants in large quantities. Molybdenum is required by plants in small quantities. So molybdenum is actually we can call molybdenum a minor nutrient, okay, or minor element. Then potassium is required by plants in large quantities, so it's a major element. Copper is a major element. Nitrogen is also a major element. Now, what are the functions? For iron, one of the major functions of iron is it helps in the formation of chlorophyll and also protein synthesis. Formation of chlorophyll. Now, you know chlorophyll is what makes a plant green, okay? So iron is very important. It makes a plant green. In fact, chlorophyll helps in photosynthesis. So in plants, if there is absence of chlorophyll, it means that that plant cannot undergo what? Photosynthesis. Any plant that does not have chlorophyll cannot undergo photosynthesis. So one of the major functions of iron is for synthesis of, or for the manufacturing or formation of chlorophyll. Now, what is the effect of the deficiency in plants? That is, if plants lack iron. Now, one of the things you see is what we call chlorosis. Okay, chlorosis can also be referred to as the yellowing of the leaves. Of course, where I told you that the chlorophyll is what makes the plant green. All right, it's what makes the plant green. So if there is an absence of iron, it means that the plant will no longer be green. You start seeing the plant, instead of becoming green, it turns what? Yellow, and it's not good. That means that plant will experience stunted growth because it won't feed well. All right. Next is molybdenum. One of the functions of molybdenum is to convert nitrogen into amino acids, and of course, you know, amino acid is one of the classes of food that is actually required for growth and development. It is required for growth. It also helps to replenish worn out tissues and cells of the body. It also helps for growth. So if a particular plant is deficient in molybdenum, it simply means that the plant will experience stunted growth. It will experience stunted growth. Now, also we have potassium. Now, potassium also plays a major role in activating enzymes for respiration, and also activates photosynthesis. It activates enzymes for respiration. It also activates photosynthesis. Now, the effect of deficiency is premature death. Premature death. So if there is nothing to activate photosynthesis, of course, the plant won't be healthy. So it can bring about premature death. Then also we have copper. Copper also plays similar function to that of potassium. It also brings about, it helps also to activate respiration and also activate photosynthesis. Deficiency of it can also result in stunted growth. It can also result in premature death and so on. And then finally, we have nitrogen. Nitrogen is also another important element required by plants. Nitrogen brings about the formation of chlorophyll. It brings about the formation of chlorophyll, just the same way iron brings about the formation of chlorophyll. Listen, iron, nitrogen, and magnesium, they bring about the formation of chlorophyll. Iron, magnesium, and nitrogen brings about the formation of chlorophyll. And of course, if there is no chlorophyll, it will result in stunted growth. It can also result in the yellowing of the leaves of plants. So these are some of the effects of the deficiencies of these elements, and also the functions of these elements in plants. Now let's move ahead to the next question. We have 2B. Now, 2B says, name 3 classes of organic foods That is, name 3 classes of food which are essential constituents in the diet of mammals, that they should be in the diet of mammals. Now, of course, we have about 7 classes of food, but I think the first 5 are very essential. The first 5 are essential constituents. Now, what are the first 5? We have carbohydrates, very essential in the diet of a mammal. We have proteins, of course, carbohydrate, they are energy providing or energy giving food. We also have proteins, which we said they are for growth, and also they help for development of the body. They also help in replenishing worn out tissues and of the body and cells of the body. We also have a number 3, which is fats and oils. Now, fats and oils helps to keep the body warm. Okay, it helps to insulate the body, keep the body warm, and it is one of the major source of energy. Major source of what? Energy. In fact, fats and oil provides more energy than carbohydrates. Okay, so fats and oil is also an energy giving food. We also have the 4th one, which is minerals, and very, very importantly, we have what? Vitamins. Now, minerals and vitamins, they constitute the vegetables, they constitute the fruits, they also constitute some other things we already make use of, like some proteins, eggs, meats, and all those stuff. Some of them are also found as, or they are also proteinous. They are also minerals, and also they contain vitamins. Okay, so these are 5 essential constituents that must be present in the diet of a mammal. Okay, 5 important organic food that must be present in the diet of a mammal. Let's move ahead to the next question. We have 2CI. That says, state 2 roles each of the following structures of the digestive system in man. Digestive system in man. Now, when we are talking about the digestive system in man, it's important for you to note what the word digestion is all about. Now, digestion is actually the process by which living organisms break down complex food substances into simple absorbable forms. They break down complex food substances into simple absorbable forms. Now, there's also what we call the alimentary canal. The alimentary canal of a man actually begins from the mouth. The mouth is also called the buccal cavity. It's called the buccal cavity. Now, in the mouth, we have, okay, let me just mention the alimentary canals in man. We have the mouth, we have the esophagus, we have the stomach, we have the duodenum, we have the small intestine, we have the large intestine, we have the rectum, and then we have the anus. These are the alimentary canal in man. Now let's look at the buccal cavity, which is the mouth. Now inside of the mouth, there are several structures that, or let me say organs, that are responsible for digestion processes to commence. One, we have the teeth. Now, one of the teeth helps to masticate or break down the food substances into smaller bits. Okay, they help break down large food molecules of food into smaller bits. And then we also have the tongue. The tongue also helps to roll the food into balls or bolus, and also helps to mix saliva with the food. Now, there's also what we call salivary gland also in the mouth. I've mentioned this, the third role of the mouth I'm mentioning. The salivary gland in the mouth produces saliva. Now, saliva contains what we call or salivary gland produces saliva, and saliva contains an enzyme, a digestive enzyme, which is called ptyalin. And ptyalin actually begins the digestion of carbohydrates. It turns starch or complex carbohydrates into maltose, which is a reducing sugar. Okay, so these are the things that occurs in the mouth. Now let's move ahead. We have 2CII. Okay, now 2CII says state 2 roles each of the following structures of the digestive system in humans. Now, we have done 2CI. We talked about the buccal cavity, which is the mouth. And I told you another part of the alimentary canal is the duodenum. After the buccal cavity, we have the esophagus. After the esophagus, we move to the food enters the stomach. From the stomach, the food enters the duodenum, okay? The duodenum. Now, what actually happens at the duodenum? The duodenum contains or consists of the pancreas, two organs mostly that plays major role in digestion. We have the pancreas, we also have the liver, okay? Now the pancreas produces what we call pancreatic juice. It produces pancreatic juice. And this pancreatic juice, it contains about 3 digestive enzymes. Now these 3 digestive enzymes are, we have amylase, we have trypsin, and we have lipase. Amylase, trypsin, and lipase. Now, amylase breaks down starch, any starch that is present, into maltose, while trypsin converts peptones into polypeptides. That is a protein. Actually, the digestion of proteins begins in the stomach. So after that, it now enters the duodenum. Now, once it enters the duodenum as peptones. So trypsin is a digestive enzyme that breaks down peptones into polypeptides. And then lipase actually breaks down fats and oils into fatty acid and glycerol. So at the duodenum, the digestion of fats and oils begins, okay? Digestion of fats and oil begins at the duodenum. Also, another role that the duodenum plays is by the action of the liver. The liver also secretes bile on the food. Now, bile helps in the emulsification of fats. Now, what is emulsification? It is actually the breaking down of fats into tiny droplets. So these are some of the roles. I've given you 4 roles that takes place in the duodenum. 4 roles of the duodenum as it relates to the digestive system in humans. All right. Now let's move to the next one. That should be 2CII. Now the question is, state 2 roles each of the following structures of the digestive system in humans. Now we are talking about the next one, which is called the stomach. But please note that the stomach comes before the duodenum. So when the food passes, like I said, through the mouth, it is ingested through the mouth. It passes through the esophagus. From the esophagus, it enters into the stomach. From the stomach, it gets to the duodenum. Now, what role does the stomach play as it relates to the digestive system in humans? Now, the stomach has what we call gastric gland. There is a gastric gland. Now, this gastric gland produces 2 things, which is called the gastric juice, and it also produces an acid, which is the hydrochloric acid. I'm going to tell you what the hydrochloric acid actually does. Now, the gastric juice the gastric juice contains 2 digestive enzymes. Now, these 2 digestive enzymes are called pepsin and renin. Now, pepsin begins the digestion of proteins by converting proteins to peptones. It converts proteins into peptones, while renin acts on milk. It helps to coagulate milk, while the HCl that is produced, which is the hydrochloric acid, creates an acidic medium for pepsin and renin to act. Now, it's very important for you to understand that some enzymes work best at a specific pH, at specific pH. Now, pH talks about the degree of acidity or alkalinity of a solution. So it works best at a particular degree of acidity, at a particular degree of alkalinity. Now, as it relates to pepsin and renin, they work best at an acidic medium. So the HCl provides that acidic medium for pepsin and renin to actually act. All right, so that is what actually happens in the stomach. Also, the HCl destroys microorganisms that can also be found in the food. Let's move to the next question. The next question says, that's 2D. It says name the end product of adding hydrochloric acid to sucrose. End product of adding hydrochloric acid to sucrose. Now, sucrose is actually a reducing sugar. Now, this is the process we call hydrolysis. So, hydrolysis of sucrose brings about, or we hydrolyze sucrose into a sucrose, which is a disaccharide, can be hydrolyzed into a monosaccharide, which is a simple sugar. And the end product is usually glucose and fructose. Glucose and fructose. So these are the two things that are resulting from adding dilute HCl to sucrose. It reduces it to what? Fructose and glucose. All right? If it is lactose, it will reduce it to glucose and galactose. All right? Let's move to the next question. Question 3. We've moved to question 3. Now, the question says relationships 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 exist among organisms in an ecosystem. Use them to answer the question. Now, they said organism relationship 1, organism A grows on dead organism B. So, organism B is dead. Okay? Organism A grows on dead organism B. Relationship 2 says organism C feeds on the remnants of food left by organism D without affecting organism D negatively or positively. Relationship 3 says organism E provides shelter for organism F, while organism F transports organism E towards food. And V says, number 4, says organism G kills organism B for food. And then V, which is 5, says organism H feeds on organism J, causing organism J a disease. Now the question is, name the type of relationship in 1 to 5. Wow. Now, relationship 1, they said organism A grows on dead organism B. So it means that the relationship in 1 is actually saprophytic relationship. Okay, there is a saprophytic relationship, an organism feeding on dead remains of plants and animals, or dead remains of living organism. Now, relationship 2, they said organism C feeds on the remnants of B of food left by organism D without affecting organism D negatively or positively. Now that talks about commensalism. This is what we call a topic called biological association. It's a topic in biology called biological association. So that is what we call commensalism. Now, question on relationship 3 says organism E provides shelter for organism F, while organism F transports organism A or E towards food. Now, that relationship is what we call symbiotic relationship, symbiosis relationship, or you can call it mutual relationship, okay? That's an association, mutual association or symbiotic association. And then Roman figure 4 says organism G kills organism B for food. Now, that is predation. Okay, that is what we call predation. The relationship is predation. And then number 5 says organism H feeds on organism J, causing organism J a disease. Now that relationship is called parasitism. All right, so 5 is parasitism. I repeat, number 1, relationship 1 is saprophytism. Relationship 2 is commensalism. Relationship 3 is symbiosis. Relationship 4 is predation. Relationship 5 is parasitism. Okay, now let's move to the next question, that is 3B. There's still the same question. Now look at the question that was given underneath. They said in relationship 4, what is the biological term for each of organism B and G? Now, organism G, or let me start with B, organism B is a prey. Now, if you look at that relationship, it is called predation. The relationship is predation. Now, the organism that kills another organism is called a predator, while the one that is killed is called a prey. Okay? So B is a prey, and then G is a predator. Now, next question says, name one example of organism B to J. B to J. Now, organism B can be any animal. It can be a mammal, it can be a rat, it can be a goat, it can be a cow, it can be a zebra, it can be a horse. Okay? All these are all prey. Okay? Organism C is a remora fish. Organism D is a shark. Okay, is a shark. That's where you get the relationship. Commensalism. An example is between remora fish and shark. Organism E, we said their relationship is symbiosis. Organism E and organism F. It depends on the particular example you're making use of. We can use lichen. Now, lichen is an association between algae and fungi, an association between algae and fungi. So we can say an example for E can be called an algae or a fungi, and then F can also be an algae or a fungi. No, actually the fungi provides shelter, while shelter, yes, and then the F provides this thing. Or we can also use the hermit crab. Okay, the sea anemone, hermit crab and the sea anemone, the two of them. That's also a better example. Hermit crab and sea anemone. Now, the sea anemone provides the shelter for the hermit crab. So sea anemone can be E, and then F is the hermit crab, which carries and transports the sea anemone towards what? Food. Very good example. And then G, an example of G, which is a predator, we can say a lion, a cheetah, a tiger. Okay, all these are predators. Okay, and then we've mentioned about B, and the next one is H. Now, if you look at the relationship of V, we said that relationship is parasitism. H can be called, an example of H is tapeworm. So tapeworm is a parasite. We also have Ascaris lumbricoid. We have hookworm, guinea worms. Okay, these are examples of H. And then J is humans. Humans can also become a prey to a parasite or a host. Okay, J is a host. So we have humans, we have pig, we have cow, etc. All these are examples of J. All right. So I think we've done justice to this particular question. Question 3C. Moving ahead, we have question 3D. Question 3D, still on the same relationship question. Now, name the relationship that is most beneficial to the ecosystem. The one that is best to the ecosystem, most beneficial to the ecosystem. Now, if you look at relationship, let me start with the last one, relationship 5. Now, relationship 5 has no benefit to the ecosystem. Okay, it does not benefit the ecosystem. It doesn't even benefit organisms in the ecosystem. Relationship 4 says the other one kills the other for food. It doesn't benefit the ecosystem. Relationship 3 doesn't also benefit the ecosystem. That is symbiosis. Relationship 2 doesn't also benefit the ecosystem. But look at relationship 1. Which is saprophytism. It does benefit the ecosystem. How does it benefit the ecosystem? Now, when A causes decomposition on dead organisms. These dead organisms add value to the soil. They help to improve soil fertility. They help to add nutrients to the soil. They also help in increasing crop yield. And of course, that is also affecting positively and beneficial to the ecosystem. So our correct answer is relationship one. Relationship one. Still on relationship, they said, give one reason for the answer in 3D1. I have just mentioned it. I said that when these organisms die and they decay or they are decomposed by organism A, their decomposed body add value to the soil. They enrich the soil. They improve the nutrient of the soil. They make the soil become more fertile. So it means that it will bring about crop yield, an increased crop yield. Okay, it will bring an increased crop yield. And of course, crops or plants are actually producers in an ecosystem. If there are no producers, the consumers won't have what to feed from, won't have energy to tap from. So they are very essential. Producers are very essential in a functioning ecosystem. Okay, very essential in a functioning ecosystem. And also what helps these producers to actually strive is based on decomposed organisms. Okay, dead, decaying organisms, which we can call what? Humus. Okay, so that is the answer to 3DI. Now let's move still on relationship. I like this. 3E. They said, give two examples of organism A. Now, two examples of organism A is all fungi and bacteria. Now, examples of bacteria, we have the Salmonella species, we have the E. coli. Examples of fungi, we have Rhizopus, we have Mucor, we have mushrooms, we have mold, and so on. These are examples of organism A. Organism A. And then finally, they said, name the group to which organism A belongs. I've just mentioned it. Organism A belongs to either a fungi or a bacteria. You can call it, it belongs to kingdom fungi or kingdom Monera. Okay, so that's where they belong to. That's the group they belong to. Now, moving ahead to question 4. Question 4. Now, it says, complete the following Punnett square. Now, this is a Punnett square. It's a question. This connects to the topic on genetics. It connects to the topic on genetics. Complete the following Punnett square of dihybrid cross between two rats. One has a black 4, which is big B, that's homozygous, black 4, and short tail, black 4 and short tail, that's also homozygous. Okay, and the other has brown 4, small b, and then long tail. Okay, small tail. Now, if we come to this Punnett square, before you get to this Punnett square, you are actually going to do a cross between the black 4 and short tail, and you make a cross with a brown 4 and long tail. Now, once you do that particular cross, you are going to get a cross that will give us black 4 and long tail, black 4 and long tail. Now, if we have this as our Punnett square, I wish I could write something to actually demonstrate this more. But for the big B and small t towards your right, you are still going to have big B, small t, big B, small t. And then underneath, we're also still going to have small b, big T, small b, big T, small b, big T. Now, if they cross, if there is a cross, what we're going to have is big B, small t, small b, big T. Now, the big B is dominant, is a dominant trait. So it means that what we're going to see phenotypically is actually black fur and long tail. While the small b and the small t, which is the brown fur and the short tail, they are recessive. They are recessive. So if we should do the Punnett square and fill in the empty spaces, what we're going to be having in all the empty spaces is big B, small t, small b, t, big T. I repeat, big B, small t, small b, big T. That's what we're going to have in all those boxes, all the boxes. And if you count it, I think that is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that is about 12 boxes there, okay? So that should be the correct answer. Now look at question BI. They said complete the Punnett square of the hybrid, okay? Now how many of the offsprings will have black fur and short tail? The correct answer is 0, none. Remember I told you that what we will see as the resulting offsprings based on this Punnett square method, okay, is going to be big B, small t, small b, big T. Now the big B and the big T, they are dominant traits. They are dominant traits. So what we're going to see phenotypically, it is black fur and long tail. We are not going to see brown fur and short tail. The brown fur and short tail, they are recessive. Recessive simply meaning that they are hidden in the offspring. The one that is dominant is the one that is being seen. Okay, the traits that is being expressed. Okay, so if you look at it, the correct answer is to how many of the offsprings will have black fur and short tail is 0. 0 completely. Okay. Look at 4BII. They said how many of the offsprings will have brown fur and long tail? The correct answer is also what? 0. Remember I said the resulting offsprings will only be black fur and tall and long tail, black fur and long tail. So if we have brown fur and long tail, that means there's no organism, no resulting offspring will be seen as brown fur and long tail. So that's a 0. Okay. The next one says, still on the same Punnett square, how many of the offsprings will have black fur and long tail? Black fur and long tail. From what we have here, you can see my cursor. Here will be big B, small t, small b, big B, big T. The same thing will be here. The same thing will be here. The same thing will be here, here, here. All these areas will be filled with the same result. Now, if you calculate the total number of the square boxes we have here, I think that's about 12. Okay, so the correct answer is how many of the offsprings will have black fur and long tail is what? 12. That's the correct answer, 12. Next question. How many of the offspring will have brown fur and short tail? The correct answer is 0, none. Okay, so that is for question 4B. Now let's move ahead to question 4C. 4C, it says if there were 20 chromosomes in the leaf of a cell of a plant, how many chromosomes will be in each of the following cells of the plant? How many chromosomes will be in each of the cells in each of the following cells of the plant? And they are looking at pollen grains. Now, this let me explain something very important. Now, this brings for you to be able to answer this, you must have a knowledge of mitosis and meiosis, which is cell division. Now, mitosis occurs in somatic cells. Mitosis brings, please take note of this, 3 important things or 2 important things I'm going to mention, 1 or 3. Mitosis occurs in somatic cells. Now, somatic cells are cells that are not involved in sexual reproduction. Mitotic cell division is involved in asexual reproduction, but not in sexual reproduction. Mitosis is not involved in the formation of gametes. It's not involved in the formation of gametes. Mitosis brings about diploid organisms. Mitosis gives rise to diploid organisms. Please take note of these two important things. I repeat, number one, mitosis occurs in somatic cells, not in cells that is involved or that are involved in sexual reproduction or formation of gametes. No. But mitosis also produces diploid organism. Now, what is a diploid organism? A diploid organism is an organism that has the same number of chromosomes as their parent organism. So in other words, what I'm saying is, if the parent organism has 40 chromosomes, it means in a diploid organism, it will have what? 40 chromosomes. The other one is what we call meiosis. Now, meiosis is a cell division also, the second cell division. Now, in meiosis occurs in non-somatic cells. Now, the non-somatic cells involves cells that are involved in sexual reproduction. Now, these cells are cells that brings about the formation of gametes or sex cells. Okay. Also, in meiosis brings about a haploid organism. What do we mean by haploid organism? The organism have half the number of chromosomes as their parent organism. For instance, if the parent organism has a total number of 40 chromosomes, it means that the haploid organism, which is the gametes, will possess half of that 40, and that is what? 20. Now, having this knowledge, look at that particular question again. They said if there were 20 chromosomes in the leaf of a cell, leaf cell of a plant, how many chromosomes will be in each of the following cells of the plant? And they are talking about pollen grains. Now, take note of this. Flowering plants undergo sexual reproduction. Yes, flowering plants undergo sexual reproduction. And in sexual reproduction, there must be formation of gametes, because sexual reproduction involves the production and the union of gametes. It involves the production and the union of gametes. So in other words, what are the gametes in flowering plants? The male gamete in flowering plant is called pollen grains. It's called pollen grains. The female gamete in flowering plant is called the ovule, O-V-U-L-E, ovule. So pollen grain is a male gamete. And remember what I said? I said mitosis does not involve what? Sexual reproduction, or it does not involve the formation of what? Gamete. It is meiosis. And I told you meiosis brings about haploid cells. Okay, haploid organisms. So in other words, if the parent organism or plant is having 20 chromosomes, the pollen grains will not have 20. It will have half of it, which is what? 10. So what we'll see in pollen grains is 10 chromosomes. Next question, 4CII. It says, if there were 20 chromosomes in the cell of the leaf of the plant, how many chromosomes will be in each of the following cells of the plant? And they're looking at the guard cells. Now, guard cells are somatic cells. Guard cells are somatic cells. They are not involved in sexual reproduction. So it means it is mitosis. And mitosis produces diploid organisms. So it means that the number of chromosomes in the parent organism must be the same in the guard cells. So if it is 20 there, our correct answer for guard cells is also going to be what? 20. So it's also going to be 20. Next question, 4CII. The same question, but this time they are looking at the ovule. I earlier mentioned, I said that the male reproductive gamete, the male reproductive sex cell of a flowering plant is what? The pollen grains, and the female reproductive gamete or sex cell of a flowering plant is the ovule. So it is going to be what? Haploid. That's meiosis. Okay? So in other words, 20 for the parent organism, the ovule will have what? 10 chromosomes. So there are 10 chromosomes in the ovule. Next question, that is question 4CIV. Okay, 4CIV. Still the same issue on mitosis and meiosis, or diploid and haploid. Okay, we said if there are 20 chromosomes in the leaf cell of a plant, how many chromosomes will be in each of the following cells of the plant? Mostly we're looking at root cells. Now please take note that the root cells are somatic. Okay, they are somatic. So since they are somatic, they will have diploid cells or diploid chromosomes. Okay, so it means that they are diploid cells. And if they are diploid cells, it means they have the same number of chromosomes as the parent organism. Now, so that is to say, if there are 20 chromosomes in the leaf cell of a plant, the root cell will also have 20 chromosomes, okay? Now, that brings us to the next question. What are sense organs? That's question 5. What are sense organs? What are sense organs? Now, sense organs are actually organs that possess sensory cells. They possess sensory cells, and these sensory cells, they receive impulse and transmit impulses to the brain, which the brain interprets and sends a response back to the effector organs. Okay, so please take note again. I said sense organs, they are actually organs that contain or possess sensory cells which receive impulses from external environment, or the stimuli, which receive impulses from external environment, from changes in the external environment, and transmit these impulses to the brain for interpretation and response. Okay, for interpretation and response for effector organs to carry out. So these are what we call sense organs. And we know we have sense organs in the body of humans. They are about 5 sense organs. We have the eyes, we have the nose, we have the ears, we have the tongue, we have the skin. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, the skin. These are what we call sense organs. Okay, so these are the sense organs. And please also take note that the sense organs are actually connected to the nervous system. They are actually connected to the nervous system. Actually, I might even say that the nervous system consists of the central nervous system, which includes the brain and the spinal cord, the peripheral nervous system, which includes all nerves, which is the nerve cells or the neurons, and then the sense organs. I believe these are the 3 things that make up the nervous system. They make up the nervous system because these are the 3 things that controls and coordinates every action of the body. They coordinate every action of the body. The brain, or the central nervous system, peripheral nervous system, and sense organs. Okay, now let's move ahead to the next question. Name 3 sense organs that respond to the stimulus of chemicals. Now, the stimulus of chemicals can be responded to through, or that can actually sense it. That's sensitivity to stimulus of chemicals includes the eye. Okay, if the chemical comes to the eye, there are nerve impulses, okay, the sensory cells that can receive this impulse and send the information to the brain for interpretation. Another one is the skin. The skin is also very sensitive to chemicals. We also have the tongue. The tongue has the ability to taste it. Of course, if it is actually a fatal chemical, one of the responses is that death follows immediately after tasting. Okay, we also have the nose. You can smell. Some chemicals are actually toxic. They are actually pungent in their smell. Pungent chemicals. For instance, we can have ammonia solution. Okay, it's a chemical, a very pungent smell. Okay, and the nose can actually detect this. Okay, can actually be sensitive to it. Can receive impulses of these chemicals. The only one that cannot is actually the ears. So there are 5 senses. Actually, 4 of them can respond to the stimulus of chemicals. We have the eyes, we have the nose, we have the tongue, and then we have the skin. All right, not the ears. All right. Next question 5b, list 3 animals each that exhibit the following courtship behavior. Now, what is courtship behavior? Courtship behavior is actually patterns of behavior that precedes fertilization, or that precedes mating in organisms. They precede mating in organisms. Actually, courtship behavior brings about compatibility. It helps mating to actually take place. There are different types of courtship behavior. But before I go into the different types of courtship behavior, let me tell you about importance of courtship behavior. Now, courtship behavior stimulates the production of sex cells. Okay, both male and female. It stimulates the production of sex cells, mostly in males, stimulates the production of sex cells. And number 2, it brings the opposite pairs together. It brings them together for mating. Number 3, it also brings about the possibility of fertilization, which has to do with the union of both gametes. Okay, these are some of the importance of courtship behavior. Now, we have about 4 different types of courtship behavior. The first one we have is called pairing. The second one is called display. The third is territoriality, which we're about to discuss. And the last one is called seasonal migration. Now, let's move to territoriality. Now, territoriality is actually a type of courtship behavior in which an organism, mostly a mammal, marks out a particular area or territory and guards it against intruders. It marks out a particular territory or area and guards it against intruders. Now, in territoriality, males actually compete to dominate a particular territory and own everything in that territory. Okay, now females are always allowed into any territory, but not the males. Whenever a male comes, it becomes a rival, and actually the most times they fight to actually win a particular territory. Okay, but females are allowed into those territory. And examples of, they said list 3 animals each that exhibits the following courtship behavior. Now, one of them is humans. Humans also exhibit territoriality. We have lions. Lions exhibit territoriality. How do they exhibit territoriality in lions? Lions mark out several areas. Sometimes they go out early mornings and they roar. The roar goes miles away, and that roar also serves as a warning to other male lions that are around, to let them know that this is his territory and he's in charge of that particular place. Some animals also go around defecating around those areas or urinating to show that they own, or they urinate or defecate to mark that place as their own territory. So we have lions. We also have lizards. Okay, lizards also carry out territoriality. Okay, these are some of the few organisms or animals that carry out territoriality. We have 5b2. They said list 3 animals each that exhibit the following courtship behavior. Pairing. Now, pairing is also another type of courtship behavior. Now, what is pairing? Pairing is actually a type of courtship behavior in which organisms leave the group or leave their group and form 2 organisms particularly leave their group and form a mating pair. Okay, they separate themselves from a particular group in order to form a mating pair in order to form a mating pair. Now, pairing brings about compatibility. Pairing sometimes can last for a very long time. Pairing sometimes can last for a very short time. There is pairing in several organisms. We have pairing in Pisces, okay? In Pisces, we have pairing in insects, okay? Where we have the nuptial flight. In termites, we have pairing in humans. We have pairing in amphibians, which is the frog, and so many other organisms carry out what? Pairing. Pairing in frogs is very interesting. You hear the frogs start croaking. Now, that croaking is also another type of courtship behavior, which is called display. Okay, the frog croaks. When the male starts croaking, it means it is actually ready for mating, and that's usually the breeding season. And then when the female comes close and is ready for mating, the male hops the back of the female, and the female carries the male for about 2 to 3 days, and they go to a very shallow water, and that is actually very calm, and then the female releases her eggs, while the male releases his sperm cells to fertilize it externally. But you will notice that they pair. They come out as pairs. The same thing also occurs in termites, okay? For the reproductives, once in a while, they pair together, a male reproductive and a female reproductive pair together, and they fly out of their termitarium or colony and go to any suitable place. Once they establish a suitable place, they mate and then raise up their own colony. So that is also another aspect of pairing. Also in humans, pairing also takes place. A man will leave his father and his mother and will cleave to his own wife, and they shall be one, and raise up a family of their own. So they are separating from a group in order to form a mating pair. Remember, I said that pairing can also last for a long time, and also pairing can last for a very short time. Now, pairing in frogs and in Pisces are usually for a short time. Pairing in birds, in animals, in humans are for a lifetime. They are for a lifetime. Okay? So this is what we call pairing. Now let's move to the next question. It says, state one similarity between the eggs of toad and the eggs of birds. The eggs of toad and the eggs of birds. Similarities. Now, one of the similarities is that they both possess embryo. Now, embryo is actually the organism that develops into, is the organism, the little organism inside of the eggs that actually develops into a living or a full, mature, either frog, either toad or bird. Okay, so each of them, they possess embryo. Another thing again, similarity is that the egg of a toad and the eggs of a bird, they possess yolk. They possess yolk. Okay, there is yolk in both of them. All right. Now let's move ahead to the next question, which is 5CII. They said state 3 differences between the eggs of toads and the eggs of birds. Very interesting. Now, if you look at the egg of a toad, it is usually, the outer part is usually soft. Okay, it has a jelly coat. That's one difference. A jelly coat, but in that of a bird, it is calcareous. That is, it is made up of calcium. Okay, it has a calcareous shell, while this one, it is surrounded by a jelly coat. Another major difference between the two of them is that in the eggs of birds, they have what we call air space. If you check the eggs of a bird, it has air space, but the egg of a toad do not have egg space. Also, the egg of a bird has shell membrane. Shell membrane. After you peel off the shell, there is also this other waterproof-like membrane that covers the egg. Now, that is the shell membrane. But in egg of toads, it does not possess shell membrane. Another major difference is that if you check the egg of birds, it has chalaza. But in terms of that of egg of a toad, it does not possess chalaza. I've given you about 4 or 5 differences between the eggs of a toad and the eggs of a bird. All right? And then the next one, 5D, they said complete the table below by listing 4 organisms involved in nitrogen cycle and state one role of each of the organisms. Very interesting. Now, what is nitrogen cycle? Nitrogen cycle is simply the continuous circulation of nitrogen in nature. Now, most times I keep telling people that nitrogen cycle is just a very simple thing to actually understand. It is talking about nitrogen from the atmosphere coming down to the earth, being used in the earth, and from the earth it returns back to the atmosphere. From the atmosphere comes to the earth. From the earth it goes back to the atmosphere. If you look at it, it is a cycle. That's what nitrogen cycle is all about. So nitrogen from the atmosphere coming down to the earth, and from the earth returning back to the atmosphere. And like I said, it is a continuous cycle that doesn't end. Hence the name nitrogen cycle. It doesn't end. It doesn't end. Now, there are several organisms that play key roles in ensuring that this cycle actually continues. Okay? And the cycle actually continues. Now, I'm going to be mentioning some of them. They said 4, but let's see if we can do 4 or 5. Now, the first one is found in nitrogen fixation. Now, remember I said that nitrogen coming from the atmosphere to the earth. Atmospheric nitrogen can be fixed into the earth by 2 organisms. We have the first one, which we call symbiotic nitrogen fixation, and we have the one we call non-symbiotic nitrogen fixation. One of them is, the symbiotic nitrogen fixation. When we say symbiotic, it means that 2 organisms are playing a major role. Now, they said list 4 organisms. Number 1 is plants. Mostly the plant is called leguminous plant. Leguminous plant is one of the organisms involved in nitrogen cycle. Leguminous plant. Now, the plant, the organism that traps atmospheric nitrogen and fixes it into the root nodules or into the leguminous plant is called Rhizobium leguminosaureum. That is a bacteria. Now, this bacteria is actually found at the root nodules of plants. Root nodules of leguminous plants. Rhizobium leguminosaureum. It is found at the root nodules of plant. It has the ability, I'm giving the function or the role it plays. It has the ability to trap or fix atmospheric nitrogen into leguminous plants. Number 2 organism is called Azotobacter. Now, Azotobacter plays the role of non-symbiotic nitrogen fixation. So it does not live in plants. When we say symbiotic, it means that both organisms are actually benefiting. Now, let me take your mind back again to the first one. I said Rhizobium leguminosaureum and leguminous plant. They are symbiotic. They benefit from each other. The rhizobium benefits food from the plant, while the plant benefits nitrogen, which is being fixed into it by the bacteria. So that's a symbiotic relationship. So I've given you 2 examples. Number 3, I said, is the Azotobacter. Now, why do we say the Azotobacter is non-symbiotic? Azotobacter is found in the soil. The soil is not an organism, so it is found in the soil, but it has the ability, in quote, to fix nitrogen. It has the ability to carry out nitrogen fixation. So it traps atmospheric nitrogen and fixes it into the soil. So that's number 3, Azotobacter. We also have Nitrosomonas. Now, Nitrosomonas is actually another bacteria that has the ability to convert ammonium compound into nitrites. Please listen. Now, ammonium compound can be gotten from dead remains of plants and animals. Dead remains of plants and animals. When they decay, they form ammonium compound. Now, there is a particular bacteria that can break down these this ammonium compound into or convert it into nitrites. Convert it into nitrite. That's number 4. That's Nitrosomonas. That's its function or role. And then we also have Nitrobacter. That's number 4. or number 5 rather, nitrobacter. Now, what is the function of nitrobacter? Nitrobacter plays the role of converting nitrite to nitrate. Now, plants cannot make use of nitrite. No. What plants make use of is nitrate. So the nitrobacter converts nitrite into nitrates. Converts nitrite into nitrates. And for this nitrogen to return back to the atmosphere, there is a bacteria called denitrifying bacteria. That's the 6th one. Number 6, denitrifying bacteria. Denitrifying bacteria plays the role of converting nitrates back into atmospheric what? Nitrogen. So it goes back to the atmosphere. So you can see that the cycle also continues. This is how the cycle continues. So these are 6 important organisms that are involved in nitrogen cycle. I repeat, plants are involved. Number 2, we talked about Rhizobium leguminosaureum. Number 3, Azotobacter. Number 4, Nitrosomonas. Number 5, Nitrobacter. And number 6, denitrifying bacteria. Okay, and the roles has also been mentioned. Next is 5E. They said complete the table by naming 2 types of heterotrophic mode of nutrition in animals, and give 2 examples each of the organisms that carry out these modes of nutrition. Very good. Now, I'm going to mention 2 or probably 3 modes of heterotrophic nutrition. But before we go into that, I want you to understand that nutrition is actually the process by which living organisms obtain nutrients. Process through which living organisms obtain nutrients. And we have 2 types of nutrition. We have autotrophic nutrition, and then we have heterotrophic nutrition. Autotrophic nutrition has to do with living organisms being able to manufacture their own food. And we have 2 types. We have photosynthetic nutrition and we have chemosynthetic nutrition. Another name for photosynthetic nutrition is called holophytic nutrition. Now, photosynthetic nutrition has to do with breaking down a process by which green plants, please note it, green plants manufacture their food in the presence of sunlight, carbon dioxide, and water. While chemosynthetic nutrition is a type of nutrition, autotrophic nutrition, in which living organisms manufacture their own food using what? Inorganic substances such as ammonia, we have nitrates, we have carbon dioxide, and so on. All right, so that's chemosynthesis. Now, we also have the other type, which is heterotrophic nutrition. Now, this is a type of nutrition in which living organisms are not able to manufacture their own food. They depend on other organisms for food. Now, we have different types. We have the first one, which is called Holozoic. As I'm mentioning the modes of heterotrophic nutrition. We have parasitic, we have saprophytic. These are 3 important types or 3 important modes of heterotrophic nutrition. I repeat, Holozoic, parasitic, saprophytic. And I'm going to give examples and also tell you what they are. Now, for Holozoic nutrition, they are divided into 3. We have omnivores, we have carnivores, and we have herbivores. I repeat, omnivores, carnivores, herbivores. Examples of omnivores, we have man, we have dogs, domestic dogs, and so on. They are omnivores. We have carnivores. An example is the lion, the cheetah, the tiger. They are carnivores. And then we have the herbivores, which is the cow, sheep, goat, horses. They all fall under what? Herbivores. The rabbits, they are herbivorous animals. They feed on what? Plants only. Carnivores, they feed on flesh only. Omnivores, they feed on both plants and animals. So that's number 1. I've given examples. Then we also have parasitic nutrition. Now, it's a type of nutrition in which an organism feeds from another organism and hurts that organism in the process. An example is tapeworm and man, or tapeworm and cow, or tapeworm and pig. Okay, so I've given you several examples. So that's parasitism. Then in terms of saprophytism, which is another mode of heterotrophic nutrition, is a process in which living organisms feed on dead remains of plants and animals. Now, those organisms that feed on dead remains of plants or derive nutrients from dead remains of plants and animals, they are called saprophytes. They are called saprophytes, okay? An example is fungi, and there are several fungi. We have mushroom, we have rhizopus, we have mucor, we have mold. All these are saprophytes, okay? We also have bacteria. So bacteria and fungi are good examples of what? Saprophytes. So I've given you 3 modes of heterotrophic nutrition and so many examples in each of them. All right? Now quickly, let's move to the next one. Okay, so this is where the questions actually ended, the 5E. I hope you had a wonderful time with me as we went through these past questions from question 1 up to question 5. Please try as much as possible to keep answering or going through past questions. It is also another effective method of preparing yourself and also studying for your exams. I wish you well. Have a nice time till we meet again.